guys. Today we're going to do day 5 for our 28 days of Black History. We are still a couple days behind, but we will catch up. So the person that we're going to be talking about today is Daniel Hell Williams. Okay? Now, does anyone know anything about this gentleman before I give you a brief depiction of who he was and what some things he did? Emily?
He was he lets colors in his document hospital for black people cannot feel like they're gonna have something bad in their stomach or in their eye parts.
Okay, so he was a person that opened up a hospital in Chicago that serviced all colors, not just blacks, right? Especially back in that that day and age where blacks weren't allowed to go in certain hospitals. He allowed anyone, no matter what race, nationality, color you were, to come into his hospital, Chicago. Orlando, tell me something else that you may know about Daniel Hell Williams.
He was very smart.
Very smart. What is the reason why you would say he was very smart? Elaborate on that for us.
Because he made his own company.
He said it a little louder. He managed to what?
Make his own company.
Yeah, he formed a hospital. You had to be smart in order to run a business, right? JJ, something else you want to share?
Yeah, he was the first black doctor to make a heart surgery.
Good. He was the first black surgeon to have to do an open heart surgery. Jaquan.
And he didn't have X-rays. He had penicillin and
You're right. He did all of this. He did this heart surgery without having the X-ray. Right. When we go to the hospital now, typically the doctor would do what? They would ask someone to give us an X-ray to see what's wrong with us inside. Dr. Williams was able to perform this heart surgery without having the X-ray machine. Now think about that. Your heart, right? That's a vital organ, right, in the body. Without that, we can't survive. So in order for him to know that this guy had internal bleeding and he performed this heart surgery without an X-ray, that says a lot for how smart. I believe someone used smart to characterize him. So good, Jaquan, but you said it was without the X-ray machine, without penicillin, and one other thing. If you need to look at the board, you can definitely look at the board. What's the other thing, Jeffrey?
He went to college.
He did go to college.
He used antibiotics.
Antibiotics, good. When we say antibiotics, does what?
Takes on
It fights what?
it fights the.
You get sick, you go to the hospital, they give you antibiotics to help you fight what?
The germs.
Germs are
Infection.
bacteria. What's another word?
Infection.
Who said it?
Infection.
Infections. Good, good. So that's one thing about what he did that's so extraordinary. Now let's think about this. We are currently in what, 2019. January 9th, 1893. We're talking about 1893. Dr. Williams performed this first heart surgery. Now, does anyone remember the gentleman's name that he actually performed the heart surgery for? Does anyone remember? Rodrigo?
James Cornish.
Yeah, James Cornish. Now, James Cornish, after having this heart surgery, this emergency surgery, because remember, he walked into the ER room, right, with the stab wound. So he got stabbed somehow in Chicago. After having this surgery, can someone tell me how long he was able to live afterwards? Because this is important. Yes, Alan? He lived 20 more years. So if I was able to live 20 more years in 1893 because of Dr. Williams, wouldn't you be grateful for him?
Yeah.
Right? That he was able to do this surgery without all the modern medicine that we have today at our disposal? Okay? So now, with that being said, we're going to do day 6 sometime later today, and we'll pick up on our 28 days of Black history, okay? All right, guys, good job, okay? Go.
Phyllis Wheatley was the first African American author to publish a book of poetry. Wheatley was born around 1753 in West Africa. Her first poem was likely published in December 1767. In 1773, Wheatley was the first African American poet to publish a book of her work. It was called Poems on Various Subjects, Religious and Moral.
My name is Emily, and Johnny Collins became the first African American artist to become first of full time at the Met.
My name is Alan, and I'm reading about Betsy Coleman. Betsy Coleman was the first African American woman to hold a pilot's license, born in 1892. Betsy Coleman always knew she wanted to fly, although she was rejected. Coleman never gave up on her dream to become a pilot. She achieved her international pilot's license in 1921. And that's all I have.
My name is Rodrigo Salazar, and I'm talking about Ruby Bridges. Ruby Bridges became a civil rights activist when she was only 6 years old. Although the Supreme Court ruled against segregation in public schools in the Brown versus Board of Education decision, many all-white schools in the South were still not completely on board. Welcomed black students, Bridges passed the entrance exam to attend an all-white elementary schools, William Frantz Elementary School in her New Orleans neighborhood. In 1960, she became the first African American child to desegregate the all-white elementary schools in the South.
Lyta B. Wells was born into slavery in 1862 during the Civil War. She was a journalist and a school teacher. My name is Jaquan Anderson. I'm talking about Shirley Chisholm. Shirley Chisholm dedicated her life to help the people in her community. In 1968, Chisholm was elected to become the first black woman to serve in U.S. Congress.
My name is Jeffrey Nabrego. My name is Danny Garcia. Mary Bethune was a teacher and civil rights activist. Today there is a college named after her, Bethune Cookman.
My name is Orlando Riddle. Althea Garcia broke barriers in tennis. In 1950, she became the first African American player to compete at the U.S. National. Though she lost her first year, she later became the first African American player to win in 1957.
Okay, everybody. For those of you who participated in the speeches regarding the black women in black history, or the few that we mentioned, because there's so many contributors to black history. It's just phenomenal. Inventors, entrepreneurs, it's just so fantastic. I want to talk about someone like Harriet Tubman. Harriet Tubman had a very fantastic quote that inspired slaves at the time. She wrote, "If you hear the dogs, keep going. If you see the torches in the woods, keep going. If they're shouting after you, keep going. Don't ever stop. Keep going. If you want a taste of freedom, keep going. And that was Harriet Tubman. So we spoke about a few people today in Black history. We spoke about, we should speak about, how many people have heard the term Negro spirituals? Okay, what is a Negro spiritual? I'm sorry, sir. Louder, please.
When you're black.
Not quite. Yes, ma'am.
When you have freedom.
When you have freedom, she says. Actually, let me break it down for you. Negro spirituals begun during slavery because it was giving the slaves comfort, being oppressed and what have you. They weren't free at all. They were literally slaves. And Negro spirituals became gospel music we hear today. How many people are familiar with the Buffalo Soldier? Anybody here know what a Buffalo Soldier is? Well, during the Civil War, when the blacks were free from slavery, some of them joined the war so they could fight against the Confederate side. And they were considered the Buffalo Soldier. We would not have won the Civil War without the contributing factors of the Buffalo Soldier. Yes, ma'am.
I heard about the Buffalo Soldier in Florida, that the Buffalo Soldier was black and white of American color, but they didn't fight for some of the slaves who was actually.
Okay, what she said was she heard that there was black and whites considered Buffalo Soldiers. To my recollection, a Buffalo Soldier is a former black slave. There might have been Caucasians that helped the Buffalo Soldiers, but the Buffalo Soldiers were all black. Oftentimes, a group of Buffalo Soldiers would be sent to take a location or to do a task without any supplies or weapons. But yet, they were still one of the most successful groups during the Civil War. And anybody else know anything about the Buffalo Soldiers? Yes.
We read about this person, I forgot his name, but I think he was a Buffalo soldier because he fought one of the Red Jackets. They were called the Red Jackets, the British.
That might be a little different story, but okay, good sharing. Remember that video I showed you about Don Van Blake? He considered himself a Buffalo Soldier. He fought for civil rights, he fought, for freedom and so forth, freedoms that other races had that we as black people did not have. There was a lot of discrimination going on that he fought to correct. He's actually from Plainfield, and he actually did the marches. He did, sit-ins, stand-ins, and he also worked with the youth. He is known as the tennis player because I know personally he would come to my nephew's house and get him out of bed so he could go practice tennis. Keeping him off the streets, keeping him busy, learning and participating in our community. He's done that for so many in our area. He's really, really, an excellent person who worked for decades, well, I believe most of his life, if you see the video, which is on YouTube, about Don Van Blake, on so many important issues, a local hero. It takes a lot of people to make something like a civil rights movement get off the ground and make change. It takes a lot of sacrifice to make change. That's why black history is so important to speak on. You'll hear, and as you do in this class, because this is the coolest class in the building, in this class about so many people who sacrificed their lives under protests of, they were protesting the unfair laws, the unfair conditions, the things they couldn't do. I mean, because of a color, as you heard today, they could not go into different hospitals, they could not go into different stores, they could not just eat at an eatery like everybody else. Water fountains were under substandard for anyone of color. A lot of conditions that today we take for granted. So it's important to know, because Black history is American history. And it's very, very important that we learn it. And you'll see, this is why we dance when we celebrate. We're still here. We're creative. We suffered, but we did not crumble. We did not give up. As you heard Harriet Tubman, don't ever give up. If you want to taste freedom, if you want to taste equality, you must never give up. And in the civil rights, as well as the civil rights movement, there were people of all colors that marched, that took part in the change. Yes, ma'am.
She always was walking her way because she always followed the North Star.
Yes, what she said was Harriet Tubman followed the North Star, and yes, was always traveling by foot, sometimes by train, sneaky like, staying with different people, this and that, to get to where the blacks were free. But speaking of that, she made numerous trips. It was so dangerous because if she'd been caught, she would have been tortured and murdered. She would have lost her life. But she fought for what she thought was right. She fought what she believed in. And that's a very powerful thing to live. Yes. She never gave up. Those are her words, yes. And the fact she accomplished what she did, that proves it, yes. Because nowadays, we take so many things for granted. But the sad part about Black history, a lot of the things, did you know during the time of the civil rights movement that on television, blacks were being beaten, blacks were being hosed, dogs were sicked on them? Did anybody here see that or know that or read that? Exactly. Imagine today being a person of color or otherwise, because now it's not just blacks that's being, targeted for violence. That whole deportation thing today. That's why it's important to learn about your past, because a lot of that is being repeated or still practiced. So know where you come from. Know, yes, ma'am.
Sometimes people forget about the Black history.
I agree. Sometimes people forget about the Black history. Sometimes people don't realize Black history, despite your color, is your history. Because anyone who has been discriminated against, mistreated, and downtrodden is considered black or a minority to those of power and authority. So you must arm yourself with education. Unite to make it right. That's very important. Any comments anybody want to make? Well, I want to share something with you, something very, 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 very important. Okay. Normally, my wife and I do a Black History presentation. And because this is the coolest class in town, I would like to have my wife come in and sing for you guys. Just let me know if you like that idea.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Well, I'll show her this clip, and if she really, now you got to convince her that she wants to come. I mean, no. Let me hear it if you want to. Mr. Ali said he's going to show us right the video, so we have to convince Mrs. Ali that we want her to visit our classroom and sing for us during Black History Month. So this is your opportunity to speak on camera and let her know.
We want you to come.
Sing for us. We want you to know we could see you in real life and told us of good songs that you know. Yeah.
All right, we're going to sign off for now, and if she comes, then by all means, you'll get to hear just why she's so special.
My name is Mrs. Ali, and I'm going to be singing just a few songs. You guys may know them, you may not know them, but this is just so that you can get a taste of Black history. This one's called Sometimes I Feel Like a Motherless Child. Anybody heard of that song before? Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm just going to do a verse or two, whatever I remember, and we'll go from there. Now, Negro spirituals, they were songs that slaves sang when they were out in the fields, and this is what helped them to get by, to get through. When they were being whipped, beaten, they were out in the fields for days on end, and if they didn't do their work, they would be killed, hanged, all kinds of things. So they sang this to get through, and they had a lot of great faith. So a lot of songs that they sang were about God, because they wished that they were in heaven at that time from all of the torture that they experienced in America, basically. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Always from home, a long, long ways from home. Sometimes I feel like I'm already gone. Sometimes I feel like I'm already gone. Sometimes I feel like I'm already gone. A long ways from home. A long, long way from home, a long way from home. That's Mother's Child. The next clip of a song, do you guys know Every Time I Feel a Spirit? It's a fast song, so you guys can clap for me. Come on. All right. Every time I feel the Spirit moving in my heart, I will pray. Yes, every time I feel the Spirit moving in my heart, I will pray. On the mountain, I will soak. Out of his mouth came fire and smoke. He looked around me, looked so fine. I asked him, Lord, if he were mine. Every time I feel the Spirit in my heart, moving me to pray. Every time I feel the Spirit moving in my heart, I will pray.
It's recording. And you walked away.
That's okay. Stop. Let me see. Okay, fine.
Okay, Mr. K's class. Today,
You're going to experience a monologue. A monologue in acting is when you portray a part of a movie, play, and or an original piece such as this, because everything I do basically is an original piece. Today, what you'll experience is a slave who's made up his mind to leave the plantation as a runaway. And he's trying to convince someone to go with him. Let me give you the setting. The setting is on a cotton farm and plantation, that is, and it's pitch black, because in the South at this particular time, in this particular location, when it gets dark, you can't see your hand in front of you. But there's a little lantern that he brings into the room to try to speak to the other slave, to try to convince them to leave. When I start the scene, I say, scene. and then I will get into character. At the end of the scene, I will say, "End scene," and that means I'm done. Everybody got that? Okay. Scene. Emmy, wake up! Y'all better wake up! Master's gonna hear us. Hurry up, wake up! Come on, Emmy. Don't look at me like that, Emmy. Come on. We just gotta get out of here. You know what, Jeffrey? You know what Master did to Pop. Just because he found a book, he was shot. I don't want that to happen to me. Come on, we've talked about this. I heard in town that if we follow that freedom train or whatever, I don't know, they told me to go up several miles up north. Come on, Emmy, come with me. No, don't. I know you're afraid, but Emmy, come on. We spent our whole life here. I don't want to die a slave. Oh, come on. Come with me. You never know what's out there. I know Master told us if we leave the plantation, we'll be killed. But what kind of life are we living now? We can't choose anything. My brothers and sisters were sold off. Come on in. Come with me. No, I'm not going to stay. No, I'm not being foolish. This is the only chance we're going to get. Master's been drinking. He can't hear us, and by the time he wakes up, we'll be long gone. Come on, Emmy, come with me. If you don't come, Emmy, I'll never see you again. If I do make it, I heard talk about Frederick Douglass gathering people. I heard talk about Harriet Tubman helping people. We can make it. Emmy. Fine. Okay. Y'all take care. Bye, Emmy. MC.
This is called Joshua for the Battle of Jericho, just a little bit. See if I remember some of the verses, okay? It goes, Joshua fit the battle of Jericho, Jericho, Jericho. Joshua fit the battle of Jericho, and the walls come tumbling down. Joshua fit the battle of Jericho, Jericho, Jericho. Joshua fit the battle of Jericho, and the walls come tumbling down. You may talk about the man again, you may talk about your man soul, but there's none like good old Joshua at the battle of Jericho. Joshua at the battle of Jericho, Jericho, Jericho. Joshua at the battle of Jericho, and the walls come tumbling down, and the walls come tumbling down, and the walls come tumbling down, walls come tumbling down. There's another one. You guys know Amazing Grace. These are all legal scriptures. Okay. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I am found. Was blind, but now I see. that grace appear. The hour I first believed, when we've been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun. We had no less days than to sing God's praise. Then when we first begun, amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see.
You want to wrap it up with the national, Black National Anthem?
I've done lots of things. Not gonna. Okay, this is.
We're going to teach all this today.
This is the black. Yes, this is the Black National Anthem, and this is what you're going to be teaching about
Today, yeah, we're going to
Okay,
teach
so I don't need to tell them about anything. Black National Anthem, and basically we sing the Star Spangled Banner and everything. Well, this is the Black.
Written by?
Written by James Weldon Johnson, who I hope you'll learn about later.
First publicly sang in 1919 to celebrate Lincoln's birthday. And it was done again in 1990 by Melvin Moore with the help of Stevie Wonder, BB and CC Winings, and Dionne Warwick and many others, and really literally became and accepted by the NAACP and all the other black organizations.
And it really should be taught everywhere, for the most part, because black history is American history. That's for sure. So, this is called Lift Every Voice and Sing. And we usually all stand up and sing this. If you want to stand up.
Let's stand up.
Stand up.
Stand
Even
up.
if you don't know it, you might be.
Let's stand up. Like we do this.
Exactly.
Let's go, Emily.
Okay.
You don't have to put your hand over.
You don't have to do that.
Yeah, just
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won.